So maybe that's a pictorial showing our workshop, the participants, and it was as exciting as your workshop that side. This is an overview. This Pan-African workshop was organized in partnership between Afrodad, Siatini, and UDN. And the objective was to equip journalists with information and skills to understand the issues of data and development and be able to actively and boldly engage in the debate and also influence decisions towards prudent debt management. This training was intended to provide journalists and editors techniques of analyzing facts, issues, data on data and development. But most important was for journalists to be equipped with skills of how to report, to put a human face on the data, on the percentages, on the statistics. We had 35 participants who were drawn up from media practitioners, editors, reporters, and producers. And for us, it was very, very important to include the producers and the editors, because the producers determine what goes into the news. So we are lucky to have some of them. We also had some civil society members. We had a member of parliament and also representative from the president's office. Our methodology was a blend of presentations. We also had poems, some creative performance, and also actual training. The trainer was mainly ACME, the Africa Center for Media Excellence, but also the training was undertaken by Siatini Uganda and UDN, especially on the technical side. And it was also undertaken by senior journalists, our seasoned journalists, who gave some tips to who shared tips to the journalists. The takeaways from the workshop. Our workshop was really, really exciting, very participatory. So many issues came up, and we'll be able to share the report. What I'm going to give you is just an overview of the takeaways. What came out clearly is that most journalists source their information or their stories from a limited sources, maybe from an individual. For example, we have a media center, the minister will come and give a press brief, and the journalists will use that press brief to come up with stories, without doing any further research. That was one. Two, when we looked at the stories, we looked at a number of stories. We analyzed the stories, previous stories that journalists had written, and those stories were analyzed to see whether they had been written properly. Another issue which came up was the absence of women in the stories reviewed. All of them. No women, no youth, no people with disability, yet that's where we see the human face, okay? It wasn't there. So we saw that there were many missed opportunities in the stories to include voices of the affected. For example, the traders, the business people, the bank managers, the men, the women, the farmers, But also the question which came up really was who are the ordinary people? Because we are saying the media should include the ordinary people. So what was agreed on the takeaway was not that the ordinary people, not just the poor people, but all those people out there, the citizenry, those who pay taxes, those who run businesses, those who do farming, you know, the employees, the employers, all those are ordinary people, and they have to feature in the stories. Another issue which came up was the attention to regional, to trends. Trends, whether global, regional, national, sectoral, historical, that the stories lacked that. You know, somebody reports the minister came, said that, the percentage is that, you know, no further research around what's going on, all those trends. Another issue which came up clearly was the need to link, or the lack of linkage of debt to other sectors. Other sectors like budget, like tax, because, for example, we are in the budget season, you know, but you could see some of the stories, there was no linkage, you know, linkage to climate change, domestic violence, investment, and all those other sectors. And we agreed that these linkages, you know, to health, to education, that's where the human face comes in. Another issue was that the media should work closely with the members of parliament. There should be a symbiotic relationship between members of parliament who work on those policies and the media in terms of exchanging information, because members of parliament might have sources of information which is needed by the members of the media, and the media can also do an analysis by bringing the human face to date to be able to help the members of parliament engage in these issues and maybe be able to make a change of policies in parliament. Another issue was that the reporter's narrative, that the reporter was missing, is usually missing out of their stories. You say a story, maybe it goes back to stories which have just statistics. And then so and so said this, so and so said that. You know, there is no imprint to be able to see there is passion. There is passion in this write-up. So this is an example of a Daily Monitor. They came up with a headline, "Debt Each Uganda Now Owes 1.5 million." You know, this was really, really good because everybody was saying, wow, what's happening? Me? Do I owe 1.5 million? What happened? You know, and a number of people used these headlines to discuss. So we are saying such headlines are good because they link to the people. A number of recommendations came up, so many. One of the recommendations was that it's a story. When you are writing, it's a story. Make it interesting. Make it about the people, not just numbers and statistics. And I remember when Jason was making his the opening remarks. In his opening remarks, when he said that storytelling is in our DNA as Africans, you know. So let us go out there and tell the story. And stories about people, they are not about figures. Another recommendation is the need to expand the pool of sources when journalists are writing. Talk to as many technical people as possible, you know, but then also know, we realized that as civil society, again, we as civil society, we also need to provide information. We need to do research. You can't expect a journalist to start writing today an article. They are given maybe one day to write an article, and you expect them to go and dig in books and all that. So we need to come in as civil society. When it came to Siatina and other civil society, the recommendations were engage more and train members of parliament on the date issues. For example, in Uganda, we are having a new parliament, very new. You know, in Uganda, most members of parliament don't, about 70% don't come back. So we are going back on the drawing board. So we need to engage members of parliament. We need to organize more media trainings in the future. This was a very good media training, but it has to be continuous as new issues come up. You know, there are so many issues now. SDR. If a journalist doesn't understand what SDR is, they will write SDR in their article. In fact, when we are looking at those articles, there were sentences like debt refinancing. And how do you expect a normal Ugandan, you know, a normal citizen to understand debt refinancing? Of course, they will read and, you know, just put the paper there. So we need to, that continuous engagement, explain to the journalists the terminologies, what they mean, because that's what the journalists are going to present. We also agreed that we need a civil society to engage the editors and the owners of the papers. The editors and that hierarchy up, I don't know it in media, have to appreciate that this is an issue. It's an elephant in the room which need to be written about or talked about in the media. And we also need to engage the media in all its diversity. Because I see in our training, we only had the print, the TV and radio, but there are other medias online, there are the influencers and all those. We need to be holistic in the way we do the media. The issue of undertaking more research is very, very important for civil society. We need to undertake more research, do more publications, which can be used by the media as a reference. And also, we need to put alternatives also, you know, as civil society. What are those alternatives? And maybe the media can be able to pick them up. Because it isn't just a matter of saying as civil society, this is what's happening, these are what's happening to the people, but what's the alternative out of the debt trap? We were also talking about finding creative ways of to reach out to the public. And what I have seen in workshop there, what we also did, the skits, you know, the creativity is really, really important. So we need to reach out to the drama, the people who are working on poems and all that. We also agreed that we also need to engage the lenders and also bring other sectors on board. And this was very, very critical, that when we are talking about debt and the debt issue, we need, it's imperative, it's important, we bring other sectors, the gender, human rights, because debt is a human rights issue. Bring climate change, because there are issues of climate justice when you look at the debt. Investment. So we need to be able to link, to make those linkages, and the media also should in their reporting come up with those linkages. That's where we ended, but we'll be sharing our report, very, very, very good report. Thank you so much.